Welcome back to Lethal Hammer's channel. Just wanted to give you guys a full update since the tower is pretty much done. I don't know if I could ever call it 100% done because, you know, as most of us, we love to continually upgrade and improve and, you know, do more and more to our systems. But as of now, I don't have any more plans to add things to the system. Possible future upgrades would include the third GTX 480, but again, not absolutely necessary. As you can see, we have our 24-inch LCD, a nice little EVGA poster that we got with our cards, and the Corsair Obsidian 800D case, fully water cooled. So let's take a little peek and see how she turned out. So again, still one of the coolest features of this case is the quick button side panel access. Just pull the case right off. And you can see right away some of the big things that have changed from the last video is one, I got rid of that coolant SLI bridge connector, the 3 to 4 space connector. The reason for that is it was just really small. The actual flow that it provided seemed like it just wasn't good enough. So I just went straight compression fittings with 1/2 inch inside, 3/4 inch outside dimension tubing, just like the rest of my GPU loop, to provide ample flow and least amount of restriction possible. Another big thing that we did is we added the cable sleeving. Crisis Gamer over at EVGA Forums kind of does it like as a part-time job, I guess you could say, out of his apartment or home or wherever he's living. Does an excellent job with sleeving. If you need a good, you know, sleever or extension cables, definitely hit him up. His prices are a lot cheaper than a lot of the sites online in general. So check that out. As you can see in the back, get a better view. We have our Black Ice 360 GTX Gen 2 radiator, and then we have 3 sync fans on the back. These are the only fans in the system on there that aren't controlled by a fan controller, so they're actually kind of loud when you get up close. Another interesting thing is the airflow is pushing towards the system, which is fine in general, but I've realized in my setup it's actually a big block of air coming right at your face. Which is actually kind of nice because it runs fairly cool and keeps you cool while you're gaming. You'll still see we're running the SwiftTac Apogee XT water block. You know, in my opinion, one of the better water blocks online. I know EK makes a really nice water block as well, but this one performs very well, and I would recommend it to anybody. Up top, we do have the GTS X Flow from Hardware Labs. It's a 360 radiator, and we have it paired up in a push-pull configuration with 6 Cooler Master fans. So far these fans have been pretty good. Overall, definitely would recommend them. And then wrapping around the front, still we have the XSPC 2 reservoirs. Top one's for the GPU, bottom one's for the CPU. And then we have our 2 Sync Kazi fan controllers. I went with dual fan controllers mainly because I'm operating a lot of fans in here, and I just wanted to get better control of those and be able to monitor what they're going at. Oh, sorry. You'll see sitting in the 5.25 inch bay we have a SwiftTech 655 pump, and then sitting right down here is a SwiftTech 355. The 655 is powering our GPU loop, which it goes the pump straight up. Actually, let me make it so you can see. So the pump straight up the back over here, straight to this radiator, comes straight down to the first GPU, ports down second GPU, comes back down, and then down below we have our 240 GTX radiator from Hardware Labs, and then it comes back around out this tube, back into the reservoir, back into the pump. So our GPUs are on a dual rad loop, and the flow seems to be really good in general. So, and temps seem to be well within spec. I think we're sitting Let's actually see what the temps are right now. I haven't checked in a while. I know this camera is terrible at zooming in, but that first GPU is at 33 Celsius and GPU number 2 is at 34 Celsius currently. And that is with a slight overclock. The cores are, well, they're dropped down in their power state mode right now, but they are running at 850 on the core. Currently, been messing around with the new GPU 3 folding client, so I don't have them fully overclocked right now. But again, we do have the two GTX 480 Hydro Copper for the win cards. Not a full coverage block on the cards, but in general, very good performance. I would almost say they're almost better than some of the Danger Den or the Coolants options. The only block that I've seen that has shown slightly better numbers is the EK block, which is a very nice block in its own respect. We do have the Intel 980X CPU. It is running at 4.654 gigahertz. And then we have our Corsair Dominator 1866 memory, which is running at 1952 megahertz at 9999 or 99924 timings. I honestly feel those memory chips are just demoted, not so stable 2000 megahertz chips. Definitely highly recommend picking some of those up. They're very nice memory chips. Like I said, I'm running at 1952 megahertz and no problems through memtest or anything like that. Those chips are very solid and stable. Obviously, Corsair is a great company. You'll see we have the EK full coverage water block for the chipset. You can see it starting up over here, up over the MOSFETs. We have the northbound chip right here, and then if you can see down below, the southbound chip is right underneath that big block. In general, great coverage. I mean, obviously, I would love to see the VREGs run a little bit cooler, but they do sit about 44 Celsius in general. But overall, really good board. The E760 three-way classified board. Again, I went three-way, mainly planning on going three-way SLI, which one day I would like to add another GTX 480 so we can do three-way SLI. The scaling in three-way showing to be very solid. The four-way hasn't been so promising yet, but I'm sure they'll make some more adjustments with drivers and whatnot and get that going. Also, back to the radiator back here, just wanted to say that the mount we're using is the Coolant's backplate mount, and then I'm also using, you can't really see it, but it's the 140 millimeter to 120 millimeter adapter. And the reason why I used it is you can see where it mounts in here. You can see the screw here and the screw here, and obviously two on the other side. But the mount itself will use the 140 holes on the Corsair Obsidian D case, so I could still mount this fan on the 120 holes. This is actually a 140 millimeter fan, but it utilizes the 120 millimeter holes, which is kind of nice. So I was still able to keep this fan on the case to allow airflow to be pushed in the case, or cooler air, so the fans up top for the CPU rad had some fresh air coming instead of just cycling all the warm air from the bottom of the case pulling up. So outside of that, you know, we do have the Silverstone 1500 ST power supply. It's a beast of a power supply. Under full load, the system has only pulled 868 watts. That's with both graphic cards overclocked and the processor overclocked. So there's still a lot of room to play with in regards to power. So if I add in another card, there shouldn't be a problem. I almost can see this power supply running, you know, 4 of these cards. Has plenty of amperage for the cards in general, so just keep that in mind when you're looking. And then also you'll see that we did add in a drain line here with some fittings here. Some of the things that I'm contemplating right now is possibly swapping the flow on the GPU loop. I've been talking with a lot of, actually, I guess you could say professionals in the water cooling field, and they were talking about how the flow of the pump, if it's going up through the cards, can yield better temps overall, as long as you have a pump and a flow that can handle it. So that might be something I'm going to try out. And also another thing I'm going to be working with is possibly swapping out the chipset from being on the CPU loop and putting it on the GPU loop to offer a little bit more cleaner look, so we don't have this huge pipe coming down right here, and more just have it angled straight coming out of there. But again, little things that's still working with and testing around with to see overall. But as you can see, the system turned out really well. It's fairly quiet. Again, most of the noise is coming from the back fans on this radiator because they aren't fan controlled. But outside of that, very nice system. But again, thanks for coming down and checking out the system. If you have any questions, post them in the comments thread. Have no problem in helping anybody out and choosing some parts and pieces and stuff like that, and keep it going.